welcome back to the Geek Vault. My name's Dan, and you're listening to episode 3. I'm joined with Matt.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be back.
So, another week goes by, and another week we're stuck under lockdown. How have you been coping?
Been coping, well, much the same as every other week, really. it's starting to all sort of merge together. Been playing a lot of games, been watching a lot of films and TV. But how about you? What have you been up to?
I think, lockdown started to feel a little bit normal for me. I mean, I've got my own routine, so I'm still working every day, and as soon as I finish work, I'm just playing games, watching films, just whatever I usually do, really. I've started getting back into my running, so that's been quite good.
Oh, yeah. You've kind of inspired me to get doing that a little bit. So that's really the only thing I've fallen into routine with. It's that app you told me about, the Couch to 5K one.
Yeah.
You kind of start it, and it gives you a bit of a routine of a 30-minute run, 3 times a week, which is not too bad. I've just finished the second week of that now.
I cannot fault that app. I did it last year, and it got me up to 5k, and I'm doing it with my sister at the moment. We just got to week 4, and yesterday, for some unknown reason, I thought I'll just go out for a 10-minute run. I did the 10 minutes, and I was like, I can do another 20. Did the 20, and then I'm like, well, I may as well could do the 5k now since I'm nearly there. And oh my god, I was knackered.
So you beat the app. You did 5k quicker.
I skipped the app, yeah. I skipped the 4 weeks.
Well, go for you. I'm still working it up. It's good start though. I'm still working with it. It's doing well. It's easier for you in this lockdown because you're still working during it. I'm not really, so I'm having to try to find stuff to fill the time. So I've been playing a lot of games, watching a lot of films, so not much else has been happening.
I've started turning off from the news a bit. I've kind of turned off from the general main news lately. And I'm not sure if you've heard of this. There's an actor called John Krasinski.
Okay.
He's best known for being in The Office.
Oh, right, okay.
Well, the bad news, he got fed up of seeing bad news everywhere. So he reached out on Twitter and said, please just give me some good news. And so many people reached out to him with some good news. It's actually spawned its own kind of web show now. So he does his own news show on YouTube called Some Good News Now.
Oh, really?
And oh my god, it is just the most inspiring thing to watch. I just feel so happy when I watch it.
So it's he's almost retweeting people's tweets in his show.
Yeah, so he asks people to give him some good news and he'll sift through it and he'll make a news show on it. They're about 10 to 20 minutes, the episodes. John Krasinski's a funny guy anyway. If you've seen The Office, the US version, he's brilliant in that.
I haven't, honestly, but I might have to give it a shout, or at least the show a shout. It's quite a good idea, given, what's going on right now. It's quite nice to see creative ideas coming out and people coming up with creative stuff to keep themselves busy.
Yeah, I think when lockdown is over, the way people get media out there and create stuff is definitely going to change.
Yeah.
It's changing now.
I mean, our podcast is one of them, really. I mean, I'm not going to lie, the lockdown is probably one big factor that's gone into us finally starting this podcast, so it might be the same for a lot of other people.
It's good to get out there and create.
Yeah.
But I won't give too much away about the show. Overall, it's just so good to see that even though, everything just looks bleak and depressing because of coronavirus, there is some good in the world still. So if you're feeling a bit down and you need a pick-me-up, check it out. Some Good News. It's on YouTube. You will laugh and you might even get a tear in your eye.
That'd be something for me to watch. I used to watch a lot of YouTube stuff, but I'm kind of getting bored of it now. So something new would be quite welcome.
Yeah.
I've been watching a bunch of other things lately. A couple of things I watched. One was The Invisible Man. I watched that movie, finally.
I'm really glad you finally watched it because I need more people to talk about The Invisible Man with. What did you think?
It was a good movie. I actually really liked it. It's like a horror movie, but it's a bit more of a thriller movie as well. The beginning of it is very much a horror movie. The way it's filmed is so good. If you've seen the trailer, then everything is kind of filmed with this empty space on one side of the frame or the other. So it kind of makes you have this feel of somebody else in the room. And you never know if the Invisible Man is there or not. And then it gets to, I don't know, maybe about the midway point in the film where it becomes a bit more like an action-y kind of thriller. A lot of what's actually going on is revealed and it becomes a bit more substandard, I suppose. It does such a good job at the tension just rising throughout it.
I mean, I know what you mean about that first kind of hour. I was on the edge of my seat. I've never watched a screen so intently. I was like, is there someone there? I can see something. Is there someone there? Am I going crazy? I felt like the main character. I felt like I was losing my mind a little bit.
Yeah, I always felt when I was watching it, I was always looking in the background. I was always looking around to see if I could spot something or there was something happening happening in the background that you weren't supposed to be focused on, because it's the Invisible Man. If there's a shot of the main character woman in the center of the frame and there's two big empty spaces either side of her, I'd always find myself looking at the empty spaces to try to see if I could spot something or some sort of shimmer, but there never is anything. But that just makes you want to look even harder. It's so weird.
I just remember like seeing a slight movement in the frame and I'd be like, what's that?
I do remember seeing there's a I don't remember if it's a trailer or not, but it's a very minor spoiler if it isn't. There's a bit where there's she's standing outside in the cold and you see there's supposedly someone standing next to her. Obviously you can't see them, they're invisible. She's completely by herself and you just see like cold breath kind of come out into she breathes out, and because it's very cold you can see like the air sort of come out of her mouth, and then you see it happen right next to her when there's nobody there, and it's really freaky. But then it really pulled me out because it looked very obviously CG as well. The first thing I thought was like, oh, there's some CG air that looked really weird, and then I realized, oh, it means there's someone next to you. It didn't quite twig in my head first that that's kind of what it meant, and I just thought, what's there some CG air there? Oh, gotcha.
The breath bit, that is in the trailer, but if you haven't seen the trailer, I recommend just ignoring it and just going straight into the film. I didn't see the trailer beforehand, and I'm so glad I did, because I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah, I will say that, because I saw the trailer beforehand. You don't want to see the trailer ideally, because there's a few scares that happen in the film that are really heavily telegraphed, or well, at least you know what they are if you've seen the trailer before it. But like, there's one scare in the trailer that happens, which I won't say in case people haven't seen the trailer. But there's a sequence in the film that's a good like 5, maybe 10-minute lead up to that scare, which of course that whole 5-10 minute lead up in the film is wasted because you saw that scare in the trailer. So there are bits in the trailer you can avoid if possible, or just avoid the trailer if possible, because the movie does a really good job of keeping you on the edge of the seat.
It's one of my favourite films that I've seen this year, and I'm just so lucky that I got to see it in the cinema, because seeing it on the big screen was just insane, because you're in a big dark room and you just don't know what to expect.
It probably does add to that feeling of making you feel kind of small if you're watching it on like a big screen as well.
Yeah, I feel like the more the film went on, the more I kind of sunk into my seat. But for those of you that might not know what The Invisible Man's about, it kind of gives it away on the tin.
Yeah.
It follows a woman who she believes that she's being stalked by her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, the entire movie can be boiled down to there is an invisible man. It's effectively, there's a woman who escaped her evil ex-boyfriend and she thinks she's stalking him, which, you know, the whole film kind of sets it up like you don't know if he is or isn't. It's really good. I want to talk spoilers because there's a lot that goes on in the movie that it's really difficult to talk about. Because there were some bits that in this movie that don't work as well, but the bits that I didn't enjoy like that were mostly like plot elements, bits that don't make sense. With most horror movies, and Invisible Man is no different, there are things that don't make sense. There are the moments where you're just shouting at the TV like, oh, they would never do that. It's so unrealistic. But you get that in all horror movies. Those are horror tropes, and this movie does certainly have those tropes where I'm like, oh, that kind of broke out of the immersion of the film a little bit. But the tension that it sets up throughout the movie, it kind of makes that not matter as much.
I think what would be really good is I'd love to hear your thoughts more in detail about The Invisible Man. So this is just a spoiler warning. If you don't want to be spoiled about The Invisible Man, check the episode info to see where to skip to now.
Yeah, I would recommend, if you haven't seen it, go and watch it, come back and then listen to what we want to say about it in spoilers, because it is a good movie. That's why we're saying don't even watch the trailer if you can help it before watching it, because it is well worth your time.
That's your spoiler warning. So, Matt.
Alright, there's a couple of things. So I was taking notes whilst I was watching it, honestly. I love the camera angles and stuff in this. I guess it's not really a spoiler yet, but the camera angles, like long takes of not really much going on. But then there's a few things like the CGI breath, and there's plot elements like, okay, one first thing is the Invisible Man is effectively in a super suit, right? I kept thinking a bit like Frozone. He's just in his super suit. The Invisible Man isn't an Invisible Man, he's just a bloke in a suit. And I thought when it gets to that sort of midpoint in the film, when you find that out, it takes away a lot of the mystery and a lot of the scares. But also it doesn't make much sense because he's still like taking on a corridor full of like armed guards with ease. Like, he's invisible. He didn't get super strength. He's like decking people and destroying them in like single punches and stuff. That one shot sequence where he is fighting a bunch of people in the corridor is really cool. It's a bit like a Daredevil kind of moment where it's just a corridor fight with an invisible guy doing it. But at the same time, he isn't super strength. It's not like a superhero. He's just an invisible guy. And he's quite a skinny little guy as well. So he's not really like super strong, which kind of threw me a little bit.
I do like the aspect of how they chose to make him invisible, because it doesn't rely on supernatural. It's very kind of scientific and it's a creation. So the invisible suit is, how would you describe it?
Have you seen A Quiet Place?
Yeah.
It reminded me of lot of how the monsters in A Quiet Place look. Now, don't ask me why, but it's effectively like this mannequin with little dots, little eyes all over him. But I think there's a problem with that in the fact that they do explain it. Because I watched this with my parents, and my dad was saying, like, say if they do a sequel, which they kind of set it up for a sequel at the end, when the main character, effectively walks away with the suit, and she's like, ooh, what am I going to do with the Invisible Man suit? Whatever the sequel is, it's not nearly going to be as terrifying or as scary, because you know it is grounded. You know it's just a suit. It isn't any kind of supernatural thing that you don't know what it is or anything like that. It ends up just effectively just being a man in a suit, which is not as scary. It's that thing about A Quiet Place, one of the reasons I didn't enjoy that film, but I'll go into that maybe another time, because you see the monster straight away, and all the fear and all the tension of, you know, what the monster is and what have you is completely gone. Whereas with the Invisible Man, you don't see what the monster is, because you can't see the Invisible Man. He's invisible, and it adds this layer of like depth. You're scared of the unknown.
Yeah, because it's something you can't see and you don't know how he's doing it.
Exactly.
And that just makes it even more scarier, I think.
But the second they explain it halfway through the film, it's not about the Invisible Man. It's not about, you know, what he's trying to do. It's more about how she's going to prove what she knows. It's more about that. It's less about the Invisible Man and more about like proving the Invisible Man, I suppose.
Yeah.
That aspect of the film I didn't quite enjoy. I wish they had not revealed like how the Invisible Man appears. It's quite clever, you know, to an extent. I just don't think it fit with the tone of the movie. That's why the first half of the movie feels like a horror film and the second half feels like an action thriller film.
Yeah, once they take it away, you know how he's doing it, and it just takes away that little bit of doubt in your mind.
Yeah, that element that makes it horror, that makes it scary, is gone halfway through the film, and then the rest of the film is more just thriller action trying to stop him rather than being scared of him. That's one thing that grounded me a little bit. And then there were plot moments, you know, like where she's like lying on the ground at one point, she's crying in her room because she's really upset, you know, she's being tormented by the Invisible Man, and a daughter that she's like moved in with, her friend who's a cop, his daughter comes into the room to try and comfort her, and she's like, oh, you know what, you're right, and they get up off the floor, and then I guess the Invisible Man hits the daughter, and the daughter thinks that it's her who's hit her, which doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, but you saw her, you had your eyes on her the entire time, looking at her as she got up off the floor, the other side of the room, and you think she hit her? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, there was a few things that didn't really sit right.
Yeah, there were moments like that. There were bits where you're like, why don't you just attack him there and then? There is literally a moment where she's like, I think it's in the psychiatric bit where she gets out the shower. She's like stabbed him with a pen. A security guard on the floor is incapacitated with a gun next to him, and she can so easily pick up the gun there and then and shoot the guy. But she doesn't. She runs out of the room and she runs down the corridor, only of course to be grabbed by him. And then that's when you have the police corridor fight scene, which is a really good scene. But again, it doesn't make any sense. It has those horror movie tropes where you're like, why would you not do this thing that makes way more sense, and would work?
I think the first hour did really well to create some great iconic moments and some good shocks.
Yeah.
I think back to the restaurant scene where she meets up with her sister because she's just been to his house and discovered the suit.
Yes.
She wants to meet in a public place because she thinks that he can't get to her there. And what happens next blew my mind.
He gets to her. He really does. It made me laugh. I'm not going to lie. It did make me laugh when it happened. But at the same time, it was kind of like really shocking as well.
He took a knife, slit his sister's throat, and then put the knife back into C's hand.
Oh, but the way it comes back to her hand is so ridiculous. It's like Mjolnir going back to Thor. She's like got her hand up already, ready to grab the knife from the invisible guy. She doesn't know who's there. It's so funny that the way it moves is so ridiculous. Another plot thing, she goes there to meet the sister. She's discovered this empty suit in his house. Oh, this is the suit he uses, or this is a second suit that he uses. Apparently there's two of them. She doesn't take that and then take it with her to her sister to prove it. She leaves it there and then goes to the restaurant. I'll talk to the sister, how can you prove it? Oh, but there's a suit at the house that I didn't bring with me, quite conveniently. You know, there's stupid decisions like that which could have ended the movie there and then, but she doesn't do that.
One scene that really got me was when she hears the phone vibrating up in the attic. So she goes up in the attic to find it, and on the phone is a picture of her asleep.
Oh, see, now that really annoyed me. Now, again, this is what I liked about this film, is everything is executed so well. And like, they are really scary and they're like, oh, how do you do that? But then the second you take a minute to think about it, you're like, hang on, who's paying that phone bill? Because that phone still belongs to Adrian, the killer who's supposedly dead. How's the phone still working? Why would the Invisible Man bring his phone with him to put it up in what's her name's loft? For no reason. If you're taking the photos of her on the phone, you're only living in the house with 3 other people. If you can go up to your cop friend who's also living in the house with you, say, did you take this photo? No. Oh, this is the Adrian's phone, the guy who's trying to kill her. This is proof. This photo right here is proof that he is alive and stalking her. Right then, you can end the movie again, or you could do something to like prove this guy's existence. And she doesn't, because it's a horror movie and it has to keep going. There are plot moments like this which aggravate me, but at the same time, they're so well done in terms of like making you scared and putting you on the edge of your seat, then you can kind of forgive them a little bit for it.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but you find that in a lot of horror movies, the main character always does the opposite of what is the obvious choice, I think. One of the moments in the film that really got me, and it's in the trailer as well. I watched the trailer afterwards, and I'm so glad that I didn't watch the trailer before, because it would have just ruined that moment, is the bit where she's looking out of the attic and you can just sense there's something there. So she takes the can of paint and she chucks it down the hall and it covers the Invisible Man, and it's a proper jump scare moment.
Yeah, that is a good scare, actually. That was the thing that was in the trailer. That's why we're saying don't watch the trailer. I mean, at this point it's too late. You're listening to the spoilers. But that's the moment that's in the trailer where I was like, oh, this bit is coming up. But of course, from the very moment where she's looking up at the attic and hearing the phone, which is like a good 5 minutes or so before that scare, that's when that setup for that scare is happening. So if you've seen the trailer, you know it's coming, which makes that whole sequence a little bit more dull. So that's exactly the reason. You probably found that moment way scarier than I did because you hadn't seen the trailer beforehand.
Yeah, that film absolutely terrified me. I've not felt that scared in the cinema since I watched Paranormal Activity.
See, now I never really liked Paranormal Activity, but we'll get into that another time.
I just think like the sense of not knowing if there is someone there or not just terrifies me. It just goes back to when I was a kid. Like, your imagination runs wild as a kid, and you just think up stupid things like, is there someone in my room? What if there's an invisible man in my room? What am I going to do?
I'd be way scared if there was an invisible man in my room. I'd almost prefer a monster in my room if there was an invisible man in my room.
With The Invisible Man, it was out in cinema, but its run in the cinema got cut short. You can rent it for $15.99 at like Amazon Prime and most rentable stores.
It's exactly what I did. I did it through iTunes and watched it this week, so it's definitely worth the money.
I think overall, that's been one of my favourite films of the year. If you were to give it a rating out of 10, what would you rate the film, Matt?
Probably an 8. It's very good. Like I say, despite all the plot stuff that happens that is very easily avoidable, it is still a very compelling movie. It still is very tense and puts you on the edge of your seat. It's still a very good horror movie. Like I say, I complained about how it got to that action sequence, but some of the long one-shot action sequences with the invisible guy fighting the police, it's really good, and they are like really well constructed sort of set pieces and scenes. It's just the way the plot moves to get to those scenes doesn't make much sense. But again, because they're so good, I can kind of forgive it for that. So yeah, I'd give it an 8.
Yeah, 8 out of 10. Definitely agree with you there. It's a solid movie. I really enjoyed the first hour, and I definitely recommend giving it a watch.
So I think we should probably take this moment to dive into what we actually really want to talk about this, because we spent a lot of time on The Invisible Man, but where we should really be chatting about is this new documentary on Netflix that is taking the world by storm, right? I know you know what I'm talking about. Tiger King.
If you haven't heard of it, then I don't know how, because it's everywhere.
It's crazy. It's such a nuts show, because I kept seeing all these stupid memes and people talking about Tiger King. I was like, it can't be that. It can't be that mental, right? It can't be that bad. And then I watched it, and I understood everything.
Initially, I had no care in the world to watch Tiger King. I saw everyone talking about it, and I was like, I don't really want to watch it. I don't really see what the appeal about is. But my sister was like, it's nuts. And someone else kept saying, it's nuts. And I'm like, how nuts is this thing? And oh my God.
It is crazy.
Tiger King is a true crime documentary on Netflix. What it's about, it kind of centres over this one guy called Joe Exotic, who is the self-dubbed Tiger King, and he basically runs his own zoo
with much drama ensuing from that. It's almost impossible. I was actually chatting with somebody about this. It's almost impossible to explain what Tiger King is about. If you wanted to sit down with somebody who doesn't want to watch the documentary and they just want to hear you explain the documentary, there's no way you could explain it without sounding like a psychopath, because so much happens in it, with so many, like, almost like a web of so many, like, different people and different, like, characters sort of going on. But that's the thing, none of these people are characters, they're all real people, which just makes it even more insane.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that drew me in, is that it wasn't made up, it was real life.
I think it's going to be difficult to talk about this without talking about spoilers, because obviously it's a documentary, it's all based off real life events, so I would suggest we probably just go straight into it. And if you haven't watched Tiger King, go and watch it, because honestly, even if you hadn't watched Tiger King and we're going to talk about it non-spoilery, you'll have no idea what we're talking about anyway, because the show's just that ridiculous.
Yeah, so it's 7 episodes on Netflix. Go watch it and come back and listen to us talk about it.
So the first episode introduced us to Joe Exotic, who's this nuts safari owner, or like zoo owner I should say, who has all of these big tigers, these wild cats that he keeps in his cages and what have you, but he loves them. And effectively the first episode is just showing you Joe Exotic and how mental his lifestyle is. He has the most amazing fashion design you'd ever see from a zoo owner. He's got all of these enemies that he kind of slowly introduces. He's got these park staff that work for him that have all been working there for years, but then it gets a bit more in depth with how he picks people to work for him, and apparently he takes advantage of a lot of people. Like he'll go out of his way to find people who are at very low points in their life to get them working at the zoo, and then he'll pay them like a small amount of wages when they're at the zoo. And then apparently during the making of Tiger King, when they had all these cameras on him, he'd exaggerate for the camera and he'd be a bit more rowdy towards his staff. It was a whole convoluted thing, and it kept getting deeper and deeper. That's the thing. Every time you think this show has already gone deep enough, it goes a mile deeper and a mile still. And it just gets weirder and weirder.
I totally agree. Just when you think it can't get any weirder or it can't get any crazier, something mental happens.
And then that's not just with Joe Exotic. It starts bringing in people like Carol Baskin, you know, from Big Cat Rescue. As we all know, she definitely killed her husband. There's a whole episode. I think it's episode 2 or 3. The entire episode is dedicated to this theory that she killed her husband and fed him to the lions. Which, frankly, if you're asking me, definitely happened. She just looks really sinister, and none of the stories seem to really line up. I don't know, it's such a strange show. That's the thing, because there's so many conversations and so many theories and suggestions made by all of these like crazy people. You have no idea who to believe. You have no idea who to trust. Not a single person in this whole documentary comes across a good person. There's no main character, if you want to call it that. There's no like hero. There's no one who is consistently the same kind of personality the whole way through the documentary. They're all just a little bit wild, and that's what makes it so compelling.
It's just so bingeable. The way it ends each episode, it just leaves you with a dangling little thread that you want to pull, and you just keep pulling and pulling, and before you know it, you've binged the entire series in a day.
Yeah, every episode is absolutely designed to end on a cliffhanger that's going to keep you teasing to the next episode. You know, they end like episode 1, episode 2, with whatever, saying, "Oh, and she killed her husband and fed to the lions," and you hear like the guy behind the camera saying, "Wait, what?" And they repeat it, and then suddenly the episode's over, and then the whole next episode is about that fear of killing her husband. Then that one will end with, "Oh, and what's his name? Jeff Lowe, I believe it was."
Yeah, Jeff Lowe that came up and helped.
Yeah, but then again, they introduce him into the show, or his sort of story into the show, by saying, "Oh, Jeff stole the zoo." And then that's it, episode cuts. Beginning of the next episode, okay, explaining who Jeff Lowe is. And he's this businessman who's also into sort of big cats and animals, and decides to help Joe after this court case, which is a whole copyright dispute over the Big Cat Rescue logo. And that's the thing, there's just so many different layers to it. It's so difficult to get into all of it.
So if you don't already know, Joe Exotic and Carol Baskin don't see eye to eye. They're basically arch enemies.
Yeah, they are.
Carol Baskin runs Big Cat Rescue, and she's all about looking after the cubs the right way.
Well, you say that. I'm not sure she does save the cats the right way, because again, there's a whole episode thing which goes into her sanctuary, which are these really small cages with even smaller bits to like feed the animals in. So arguably she's saying, "Oh, we'll have to save these cats by putting it in her sanctuary," and her sanctuary isn't exactly much better than Joe's sanctuary, isn't much better than anybody else's. So it's weird.
You see a lot of different zoos, and it almost suggests that it's quite a cult. Episode 2 really delves into other zoo owners. So you look at Joe's zoo, you look at Carol's, and there's another person called Doc. You see his zoo as well. And the whole kind of big cat world is just insane.
Oh yeah, because they introduce Doc, don't they? Who they kind of see his zoo more so as a cult, and it's him trying to sort of seduce all these women, and he gets them dressing up as lions and tigers. There was one woman who looked relatively normal. She looked like an everyday kind of girl. In the interview that she was having, he made her get like a boob job or something to get people in to visit, and he had like 7 different wives. It was like, this is just one dude. Like, you could do an entire documentary on just this guy, and he's only got 1 episode out of this entire show. And then you got the Jeff Lowe businessman who also goes to Vegas, and he sneaks tigers up into like Las Vegas hotel rooms to entice women, and they all live these absolutely outlandish lifestyles and are absolutely nuts doing all these crazy things.
One thing that I don't understand is, why on earth would you want to own a big cat?
I don't know. I wouldn't want to own a big cat. I barely want a kitten, let alone a bloody lion.
It just spells for disaster. At one point, he had 227 tigers.
227? My God. Think of the litter tray. That'd be huge.
I'm surprised you didn't see much about people being attacked by the cats.
No.
Until you get into episode 2, you learn about Saf.
Yes. Saf is one of the workers, I suppose, at Joe Exotic's farm, who was introduced almost immediately in her interview as only having 1 arm, and it shows how she lost that arm in a tiger attack.
She had her hand in the cage?
Yeah, it never really shows, actually, what happened.
You don't see the footage, but she describes it a bit. There is the after show where Joel McHale interviews her, and she does talk a bit more in depth about what actually happened.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Apparently, from what she said, within 15 to 20 seconds, Tiger had her arm off. Basically, what had happened, she had her hand in the cage, and the tiger just took it off.
Well, she put the hand in the cage then.
Yeah, she had a hand in the cage. I'm not sure why, but the tiger got a hold of it, and within 20 seconds, her arm was gone.
Well, why'd you put the hand in the cage? It's exactly the point. Why would you? Why would you do any of this? Why do these people exist?
One thing I'm shocked at is there's not more stories like that in Tiger King.
Yeah, I think there's only like 2 stories. The entire documentary, I think there's only that one, and then there was another story, I think, a bit later in the season where it was somebody else who got attacked by the lion or something like that. No, it was Joe Exotic, wasn't it?
He was being attacked by the cats.
Oh yeah, because he had this conspiracy theory about someone who had put cologne on his shoes and trying to get him killed. He thought, oh, somebody's put cologne on my shoes, and the cats were sniffing around his shoes, and he ultimately grabbed him and like started dragging him away. Oh my God, because he's dragging them away or whatever. They're not doing anything. They're not like ripping him limb from limb or anything like that. They're just kind of dragging him almost like in a playful way. But you know, you don't really want to risk that with a lion. But then he takes a gun out and he's like shooting past the lion to like scare him off, and then that sparks up the other tigers that are around him, like the other 3 or 4 of them, and then they all get on the defensive. It's like, dude, you're gonna kill yourself at this point. You don't need any kind of conspiracy theory stuff, cologne on your shoes to get this happening. You're causing it yourself. It just riles up, and then he runs for president. That's the thing. It just gets nuts and nuts and nuts.
The crazy thing about his run for president is I actually remember, because they show an episode, a clip from John Oliver's show, and for some reason back in 2016 I used to watch that, and they showed the clip of Joe Exotic, and I actually watched that when it was shown on the telly. I couldn't believe it.
Did you actually see that? My God.
I knew about Joe Exotic before I knew about Joe Exotic.
It's like this documentary put all the strings together, and finally you realise what the bigger picture was.
The kind of main talking point, the main kind of theme throughout the documentary is Carol and Joe's rivalry, and how Joe always talks about wanting to kill Carol.
Yes.
And that's what it focuses on a bit more as you get through the series. Joe constantly talking about killing her, sending her rattlesnakes.
Oh yeah, that's ultimately what it ends on as well, isn't it? The last sort of few episodes are this whole theory and this whole case about how Joe was trying to get a hitman to kill Carol Baskins, which is all just nuts in itself as well. I mean, ultimately, obviously it's all based on a true story. Ultimately, he ended up in jail because of it. Also, the show actually ended up on quite a note that I thought was quite well put, is that ultimately, after all of this chaos and all of the arguments and theories and conspiracy theories and accusations and everything, ultimately, the animals never benefited, never from any of this.
No.
All of them cry out for being for animal rights activists, for Big Cat Rescue, Joe Exotic, Jeff Lowe, all these people who want to present themselves as being people who care about the animals and want to do rights for the animals. No animals benefited from any of the events that took place in the show at all, which is quite a suitable way to end the show, which I did thought was quite interesting.
I think in Tiger King, there's mainly no good guys, and the big loser is the animals.
Yeah, They're the only people who ultimately lost stuff. I mean, there was a point halfway through the show where one of the places burnt down, and there was a whole conspiracy as well. It was one of Joe's recording studio / alligator enclosure. I'm not sure quite how that works, but apparently it was both.
He had his own YouTube channel, which was Joe Exotic TV. And Rick Kirkman said, I'll do it for you, but I want to make my own documentary about you. And he had all his footage in there.
Oh, yeah. He was quite ashamed of the fact that, you know, someone had burnt down his studio and lost all of the work. And then there was a whole conspiracy throughout Joe saying, oh, he burnt it down, or Joe burnt it down to destroy evidence of what he'd recorded and doing all this kind of stuff.
It still had a negative effect on the animals.
Yeah, because ultimately animals were burnt to death, which is absolutely horrible. It was such a weird show. If you haven't, you need to see this, because it sounds like we're just bouncing from one random thing to another. How are these things possibly connected? It's like, you wouldn't know how they were connected. It does sound like random. We've gone from a recording studio with alligators in it to a guy running for president to a woman trying to kill her husband, and all of this stuff, apparently it's connected. And you wouldn't believe it unless you watch Tiger King.
We sound a bit crazy. I feel like we sound a bit crazy talking about it.
We sound like some of the characters on Tiger King talking about Tiger King. There's no way you can give this show any kind of credit. There's no way you can explain what this show is about without watching it. So, my God. Even for the memes alone, you've got to see it.
I saw all the memes on Facebook and I was like, I have no idea what any of these mean.
I will never financially recover from this. I just kept seeing that meme and I didn't know it was from Tiger King until I saw that scene in Tiger King. I was like, oh, now I get it.
Someone actually put that meme on their credit card. I need that picture on my card.
That's a good idea, actually. I like that.
But Tiger King is just mad. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. It's only believable. Well, I don't even know if it is still believable, but you have to see it to believe.
You know what? Because I was in the same boat as you when people kept telling me about it, and people were saying like, "Oh, you should watch Tiger King," and I was like, I don't really know if I want to. And then as soon as I started watching it, I couldn't stop watching it because it's like watching an accident happen. It's like watching a car crash. You can't look away from it. You got to see it to believe it.
I don't think this is the last we're going to hear from the Tiger King. I think we might see more.
Have you heard there's already apparently talk? I don't know how true this is, and honestly, personally, I don't want to see it happen. But they're talking about making a Tiger King movie.
Yeah.
And they're talking about what kind of stars and actors they want to play these people. And I'm like, whatever movie you make, it's not going to be better than the documentary. Whatever movie you do isn't going to be better than the real story of it. It's not going to introduce something new that we don't already know about from Tiger King. It's not going to show any different perspective. The real life documentary on it is already so entertaining that anything you put after it that isn't also that isn't going to be as entertaining. That's the thing. If you watch Tiger King, you're constantly thinking in your head, oh my God, you can't make this shit up. And you can't. You certainly can't for a Tiger King movie. You can't make this up. If you're going to want to continue Tiger King, God knows how, the only real thing you need to do or have to do is do a season 2. Don't start making Hollywood movies out of it.
As much as I'd like to see a film, I don't think it will hold up to what Tiger King the documentary is.
So ultimately, if you haven't seen Tiger King, you've got to check it out. You know, it's a good show. It certainly keeps you interested and keeps you wanting to binge it. We'll see if we ever get a season 2. But, you know, it's a good show, if anything, even if it is crazy.
It'll definitely help pass a day away.
Exactly. Moving on from that, I suppose we've got a few little news stories we can chuck around. Just before we wrap up, you mentioned something about, was it James Gunn? He's got like a playlist or something like that.
Yeah, so a few days ago, James Gunn tweeted he's created a Spotify playlist, which is called Meredith Quill's Complete Awesome Mix.
Oh.
If you don't know who James Gunn is, he's the guy who did Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Those films are notable for the soundtrack, which is Awesome Mix Volume 1 and Awesome Mix Volume 2. With the current times, he's tried to inject a bit of cheer into the world, and he's posted this master list.
Oh, so it's a bunch of other, like, music that he was going to put into Guardians of the Galaxy that he just didn't. So he's put them into, like, a little playlist.
It's potentially songs that might appear in the next film.
Oh, that could be quite good. And the soundtracks to those are so good.
So it just gives you a little bit more Guardians without the Guardians.
I might give that a listen. I've got a couple of other things here, actually, whilst we're going over like little bits of news bits. Have you heard of Colin Farrell?
Yeah.
The rumour going around about him.
I've heard of him, not the rumour.
Yeah, there's this guy, there's this guy called Colin Farrell, right? He's great. Well, apparently there's this bloke called Rob McClure, who is an actor, and he's currently starring in the Broadway adaptation of Mrs. Doubtfire. Now, I know that's got nothing to do with anything.
Wait, there's a Broadway adaptation of Mrs. Doubtfire?
There is. I know. I didn't know about it either. It sounds weird, but I know that's completely unrelated to Colin Farrell, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Rob McClure, he did an interview lately, a Q&A, about the Broadway version of Mrs. Doubtfire, in which he actually said that he was getting fitted for these prosthetics for Mrs. Doubtfire.
Okay.
And he mentions that whilst he was getting fitted prosthetics, the company that was responsible for making those prosthetics also happened to be working on prosthetics, apparently, for Colin Farrell to play the Penguin in the upcoming Batman movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So rumour goes that Colin Farrell might be playing the Penguin in the Batman movie that's coming up, and they're working on a bunch of prosthetics for him as well.
Wow.
That could be pretty good. That could be really cool if that's true.
We've seen a few stills of the new Batman film, and if you don't know already, Robert Pattinson is the new Batman. And the pictures, it's just the goggles, I think. Like, the mask just doesn't sit right with me.
I don't know, I kind of like it. The more I'm looking at it, the more I'm thinking it could be quite good. But I'm thinking, if this is true, we haven't seen the Penguin in a Batman movie since...
Danny DeVito?
Danny DeVito, wasn't it?
I want to say Batman Returns.
Yeah, but he was great though. That's the thing. It's difficult to do the Penguin justice after that, because as hilarious and as ridiculous and as campy as it was, having Danny DeVito as the Penguin was amazing.
I know they did the Penguin in Gotham, but I've not watched that yet.
Oh yeah, they did do the Penguin in Gotham. I haven't finished Gotham yet, though I am into like season 4 of it. But I honestly kind of dropped off my radar for a little bit. Another little bit of news is worth noting is Spider-Man. We all know Spider-Man. We all love Spider-Man. Tom Holland was saying all the Spider-Man movie is still going to be shot on schedule. That was actually changed today. There was a new story that came out today saying that Spider-Man 3 has now been delayed until November of 2021. So it's not by too long. But that movie has ultimately been delayed because they still don't know when production for it is going to begin. With, what's going on in the world, I don't really know. It was said that Tom Holland was actually working on Uncharted. So he was apparently in Berlin shooting for Uncharted alongside Mark Wahlberg. So I didn't know that. Mark Wahlberg is apparently going to be in the new Uncharted movie. And they're all set, ready to go until it got shut down, and that's where we are now. But they don't know if they're still going to make that Uncharted movie before then starting production for Spider-Man and then going to be going out. So it depends on how the time frame goes on. Of course, if the longer delays go on for, if Uncharted gets delayed for longer, Spider-Man might get delayed for longer. But as of right now, Spider-Man 3 has been delayed until roughly November of 2021, which sucks.
Oh man, that's a long time away.
I was looking forward to it, honestly.
One of the producers tweeted that the title of Spider-Man 3 will have the word home in it. So they're still going with that homecoming, far from home.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of that. A lot of people have been joking around and memeing at the moment saying it's going to be Spider-Man work from home. Because given what's going on at the moment, or something like that. But I like that they're kind of keeping that theme going. I'm excited for whatever the next Spider-Man movie is going to be. In the meantime, I think that's a healthy place to wrap up.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to stop.
I hope everybody enjoyed the episode. So, if you've got your own opinions about what we talked about, we talked about Invisible Man a little bit, we talked about Tiger King. Like I say, if you haven't seen Tiger King, you've got to go watch it. As soon as you do, come back here, listen to what we spoke about, and leave a comment. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening, guys. If you head to the episode information, you'll find links to trailers and everything we've kind of talked about this week that we've discussed in the episode. And it'll also have a link to our website where you can visit, and it will have links to our socials.
Yeah, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, all that good stuff. So yeah, make sure you give us a follow and let us know what you think. And until then, I guess we'll see you next week.
Have a lovely week, guys. See you soon.